It's Thursday, June 25th, 2026, and welcome to episode 134 of the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from actually 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. I always get that time. They shift it around every once in a while. We appreciate your support. Upcoming events. We are kind of everywhere over the next month. We have Susan Mayo at the North Carolina Management Conference. That's mid-July. Backing up to that, we have the TCA Refrigerated Conference in Nashville, Tennessee that Susan and I will be at. We have Mike Solars at the Texas Trucking Association and Robert Bain at the Florida Trucking Association. That's all July. Capping off July, at least the beginning of August, we have the Minnesota Trucking Association, and then we start into the fall conference season, which I don't really believe there's seasons anymore. I just think there's always conferences. But, it's great to see everybody. We love the state organizations. We love being able to spend time with them. Definitely looking forward to the TCA Refrigerated meeting. If you have any questions about these shows, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat through what our thoughts are on them. Next week, it is the 4th of July period. So we're not going to be running a live episode, but we will rerun our interview from about a year ago, I think, with Dr. Gina Anderson. She is the CEO of Luma Brighter Learning. If you don't know Gina, you probably should follow her. She's just a wonderful person, great person to chat with, and Luma Brighter Learning has a wonderful story. So tune in if you can. The following week, we have Todd Waldron on. Todd's the CCO of Repower now. So you might know Todd from Truck Stop or from when he was running brokerages. But Todd's a great friend, and we haven't had him on for a while, so we're revisiting what his new life looks like at Repower. So that should be a fun one. In 1944, a man named Vince started running milk and ice cream routes around Milwaukee. He had no idea he was starting a dynasty. That route became a truck. The truck became a fleet. And 3 generations later, the woman who runs it didn't just inherit a company, she inherited a name, a legacy, and a whole lot of people watching to see if she could carry it. Then 2020 hit. She took ownership of the family business the same year that the world shut down. And she didn't just survive it. She came out on the other side, leading 6 companies, earning Carrier of the Year, and building a training center to hand the next generation of owners the map she had to draw herself. She's a 3rd-generation trucker, a teacher at heart, and not only a returning friend to the show, but also a returning friend. So, Pam Polyak, welcome back to Driving Forward.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Coming to you from the north woods of good old Wisconsin today.
What town are you near?
We're technically in Lac de Flambeau, so just outside of Minocqua is pretty much the biggest city.
When you start throwing that out, it's like you're speaking a different language. But I'm from Minnesota, so we have plenty of that too, But I feel like Wisconsin might lead the pack on strange town names. So
100%. But my daughter's loving it. So I adopted her, and she's Native American, and so we're technically just outside of Oneida County, and that's actually her tribe. So she's learning a lot too. We've done some fun learning experiments. So
that's great.
She's seen more teepees in the last week than she has her entire life, so she's very excited.
Yeah, I mean that happens in a lot of places, but a lot of our culture in Minnesota, Wisconsin is, obviously from the names, we have a lot of that around us. I grew up in a town that has a fairly strong tribe as well, so powwows and lots of friends, and the culture generally. So that's great that you're able to kind of jump into that. So you took a week off, and you're
Still working.
thanks for interjecting or jumping in the middle of the week and coming on the show.
Absolutely.
But how's it like for you stepping away from the business for a week, or is that just not possible?
It's good and bad. I haven't been quiet on LinkedIn. If anybody follows me out there, just kind of expressing that we're going through some changes. I had a new dispatcher started beginning of March, and there's still a lot of learning curves with that. That's not an easy role to take on, and the training part doesn't happen quickly.
Sure.
And then we moved down towards Milwaukee Airport, so a little bit closer to the airport. We moved at the beginning of May, and one of my assistants decided not to come, which is understandable. It made her drive over an hour every day. So it was just too much, which is completely understandable. So we're transitioning out that role and bringing somebody else in. So there's just been a lot of changes. So the vacation definitely made me nervous coming into it. I'm not fully detached by any means. I have had to log in a few different times, but nothing crazy. I honestly have a good team. We have good dedicated routes. We have, it's not horrible. Let's put it that way. It could be a lot worse. I remember days, even when working with my dad, we get phone calls every night. You're waking up 3 or 4 times during the middle of the night with different phone calls, different issues. I mean, it runs a lot better now than it ever did. So yeah. I can't complain.
That's I've lived that life, so I get it. Actually, it's not that much different on what I do now, except I don't get 2:00 in the morning phone calls. But I definitely, I'm in Las Vegas at the Samsara conference, and I've been spending at least half the day, if not more, in my room working. So dealing with phone calls and whatnot, and etc. Instead of actually going to the conference that I came here to go to. But I've sort of accepted that. As a leader, wherever I go, very few vacations actually are truly full vacations. You're going to find that out probably here in a little bit when you go across the pond. If you have, I mean, that was probably the biggest disconnect for me was when I went to Europe last year for 2 weeks, and you're 8 hours off or 5 hours off, and it's just an odd one to deal with, but. You get to find out how good your team actually is. So, I mean,
correct. Correct. Which is okay. I mean, yeah, like at the end of July, we leave for France, but I'm hoping that team's good. My team's great. So I'm not really nervous about that. It just always tends to be an oddball, something tends to happen when I'm gone. Just a weird, okay, I haven't seen that one yet, which seems nuts because I've been doing this for over 20 years, but there just always seems to be something that comes up that's like, yep, you wouldn't have not known what to do with that because this is the answer. So getting questions, but I'll much rather have the questions and know that the guys are working on stuff back home than not. So I'll take it.
Nope, 100%. And I mean, to that point of, you think you've seen it all, but in reality, you eventually, at one point, you're like, yeah, I've seen everything. And then you realize, well, I'm not. So
I'm never saying that again. I think I said that about a decade ago, and it's never coming out of my mouth.
Well, this is my point, is about 10 years in, 10, 15 years in, you're like, I've seen it all. And then another 5 or 10 years later, you're like, well, I've got enough experience to say that I haven't. So, because there's always something that pops up new that you've never seen before, whatever that may be. And, so lots of times I'll tell people, I've seen pretty much everything. So I usually am not surprised, but, you still come up with new things from time to time. I'm experienced enough to know that, I haven't seen it all. Yeah, I don't know everything. So, so how is business generally?
We are starting to see some uptick on rates, which I'm very happy about. Not as strong as some of the freight waves type predictions have been coming across. We are very Midwest, very regional. So Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan, that kind of U shape. Yep. So Slight increases, not as much. I will say it is clear that we are being needed more, meaning there's a
Right.
lot more no's. My guys were never sitting, so now it's a case of kind of being more choosy as to what freight we're taking, making sure it's profitable, making sure it's making us money from that end. So good. I will say I could hire 2 or 3 more night people. That would make my life a heck of a lot easier if I had a couple more night people in the mix, and I'm struggling to find good night people, employees. So that's kind of been, now are we a driver shortage? Don't think so. Are we are
I
we
was actually going to
short
just
on
move.
quality drivers? Probably. There's been a few applicants I've gotten that haven't been able to pass med cards, haven't been able, don't have the experience. I've had one that failed a road test. I have, and not just like a little fail, but we're talking like
Big fail.
big fail.
My first, before I'll even move a truck on a road test. So obviously most trucks are automatics now, but back in the day, I had this guy get up in the truck and the left leg just started bouncing up and down when he touched the clutch. And I'm like, hey, dude, let's just get out. So like you haven't. I'm not getting in a truck that somebody. It was because he was nervous. So I was like, nah, I'm good. So
you can't be nervous in this. I had a driver recently, an owner operator came on, and he claimed, and I'm not saying it's false, I'm just saying his statement was that, he worked for a company he believed was on the shadier end, but he didn't know any better. He had bought the truck and signed on with these people right away. And the questions I was asking even during the interview, I was like, well, what's the DOT number on your truck? He's like, I don't have a DOT number on my truck. What?
Really?
What? And I said, what? I said, well, who's the license plate under? Well, it's the license plate that was on the truck when I bought it. What? There's just a lot of,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he perhaps is telling me a different story, or there's a whole other piece to this story, or if it really just was a shady company that he said that all of their stuff came off of load boards, which it makes sense to the narrative of what's going on in the market for sure.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just, there's just red flags like everywhere I look right now. I feel like not just with that driver, but I just feel like some of the narratives the drivers are saying, the narratives other brokers are saying, customers are saying, I think the industry as a whole is really in a trust issue stage of life. Like nobody trusts anybody right now. Like sure. We just don't. You can't trust to broker that load to that carrier. You can't trust to get paid by that random broker. You can't get trust. You're not trusted to do anything. You have to prove everything about who you are. And then vice versa, you want everybody to prove who they are. And it's disappointing, but it's where we're at in this industry as a whole, I think. And so even hiring people and hiring drivers, it's become very much a checks and balances. Where did you work? Those things have all been in place from a DOT standpoint, but it's that tingling on your back of your neck where something just isn't quite adding up right. That seems to be on high recently. With hiring, changing a customers, bringing on new freight as well. It's very interesting. So
it's a big standoff, and between various potential litigations, between visibility platforms, between AI, between all of this stuff. People are there's a lot of exposure, and there's more exposure today than there's ever been before. Not to mention the ability to communicate. Now, I actually wrote a paper on this, not to go too far off track, but I wrote a paper on this when I was in college. And that's, it was about hyper communication.
Yesterday, right?
It was yesterday. Yeah. It was a minute ago, but it was almost pre-internet. Let's just call it that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, the internet was there, but it was like AOL level internet, so, So my paper was about how hyper communication, why it's going to be really great, is actually going to be really horrible. It's too much information for us to consume at one time, and then that creates these locks that are going to happen. I wrote this in like 1996, something like that, probably. But it's funny. I wish I would have kept the paper because, like, I was predicting the future. I had no idea that I was actually right. So.
Yeah.
But
That's definitely where we're at. There's so much information going on that it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not. And in most cases, it's nearly impossible, I feel like. Whether it's emails, spam emails, click this, you owe this, we're sending you money for this, to, I mean, everything that we're seeing in freight fraud. We know that it's here and it's likely not going away anytime soon, as much as people are trying. It's here.
Well, the question is like, is it worse? So I do think it's worse than it was 20 years ago, because we're actually losing freight in a different way. I think that this particular fraud or hijacking, for example, I don't have the specific numbers, but I believe that's down to some. I suppose it depends on where you're looking at, but having a truck get jacked in downtown Chicago, you just don't hear about that often anymore. So
correct, not in the direct hijacking of like truck, the physical truck itself. It's happening in the tech space.
Yeah,
happening
20 years ago, though, we used to get trucks jacked in Chicago. Like, people would come up and be like, get out of the truck and we're taking your stuff.
Nate, it wasn't even that long ago. So the crazy part that Dad and I always talk about, so Dad retired in 2020, the end of 2019, we had a huge retirement party for him. Yeah. We talk about it all the time, that even when he was owner, which was 2019, not that long ago, his biggest concern was like telling the drivers, make sure if you're at a rail yard or make sure you're parked somewhere other than, our lot, back the doors up to a tree, to a pole, to whatever, so that nobody can. That was the biggest concern. That was it. That was 100% it. So maybe we need to go back to fax machines. Those have to be more secure. Like,
the person who invented the pager was where this all kind of went down the road. That communication there. But no, so the reality of it is how much of this has existed in the past, and we just weren't tracking it, right? And even today, are we actually having more problems, or are we just identifying all the problems now? So that's a question that I don't think anybody can answer, but a lot of this stuff wasn't even dealt with and tracked. And even in some cases today, you want to call out a scenario with a carrier, there's no like common receptacle for that. Like, you kind of got to put it on social media. You got a few groups that are potentially popping up, but there's no basic standard for it. So, it is a problem. I think people are trying to solve it. And in a lot of ways, in solving it, you create more problems. So
correct. And a level of fear. And fear sells. And that's no different in this industry too. It's very real, and I'm not saying it's not, because we've had 2 stolen loads before too, so I certainly can't say it's false. It's blown out of proportion. It is very much a big issue. But I think, to your point, it has been around a long time. So this was back in 2015, 2016 maybe. We had an owner operator literally take our truck, or our trailer, I'm sorry, and go start hauling. And we had just put GPS in the trailers. So GPS on the trucks weren't even a thing. And we had just gotten like the very like pings once a day type GPS in the trailer. And he took it down to Georgia, and there was nothing any of the cops here were willing to do, because he had already crossed state lines. Well, who do you call? Nobody. So that is the exact same scenario that we ran into when our 2 loads ended up stolen. I had nobody to call. Nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody was going to do a report on it. Nobody was going to do anything. So from that end, it's that state versus federal. What's local government going to do versus you cross state lines, and now it's federal. Does anybody want to do anything? So I think there's the same issue. It just, now the frauds got a hold of it. That the frauds understand how it went, where the holes in the government are, and have completely made it catastrophically different than what it used to be. I think there's a lot more of it, but you can also choose not to pay attention to it, which is also just as dangerous right now. You choose not to pay attention to it, then that's when you get nailed, with a fraud, with a cargo claim for an entire trailer that you never hauled, but it was booked in your name or variations of that. It's not as easy as it used to be.
No, well, there's a million ways, and it impacts your business. And then, I mean, isn't it? Well, we're dealing the stuff that you were just talking about in enforcement. I think that it's Corca. Is that? I think there's an act that they're attempting to push through, or a bill that they're attempting to push through. But you know, that's a lot of this stuff has always been a problem. You have a truck get stolen, they'll do something about it. You have freight get stolen, or a trailer get stolen, and you know the it's too small for the federal side, and it's too big for, or too weird for a local enforcement, unless you know exactly where it's at when it's happening. But even then, you can't get people to come out and deal with it. I mean, you can be like, hey, my truck's going down I-10 and it's right here, go get it. And you know, a lot of them won't respond. I think that's getting better with law enforcement education, but that's not happening fast enough. So some of your larger cities and whatnot certainly are aware of it. I was just talking with someone that works for the Minneapolis Police Department and has for 20 some odd years, and yeah, he was definitely aware of these problems. So, but I mean, not that long ago, if you had a discussion with a city police department, they weren't as aware of the problem. So
my two total loads were early 22. So, and they looked at me like I was nuts. They were like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, there wasn't anything. And even then I had a friend at the FBI, the Milwaukee FBI, and I had brought him in and I said, what do we do? I mean, he took the notes, he did whatever, but then there was really nothing he could do about it. And we were even talking about a month ago now, and I said, has it changed yet? And he said, absolutely. He goes, we have, you know, certain task force now that we need to report to, and different things that they're kind of doing internally, because they have heard of a lot more, especially being just outside of Chicago. It's definitely a hot spot for the fraud and that corridor and that kind of stuff. So it's, I mean, I guess right now the entire country feels like a hot spot with this fraud, but there's movement. It's just not happening fast enough. Right. If it was done yesterday, it'd be okay, but you know, it just keeps getting pushed down the pipeline, and that's what makes me nervous. I would love Corker to go through. I would love the SAVE Act to go through, the Safer, you know, Trucking Act, all of that to go through, the Delilah Act to go through, and it's suckered into nothing but politics and left and right.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because there's a clear path on how to fix this, and kind of scrape everything back down to zero and then build back up from there. I just don't know what government is going to be able to achieve it with the two sides constantly fighting with each other. I mean,
and you were in Washington not that long ago, right? So is this a new thing for you? Is this something that you've just kind of picked up here recently?
I don't want it to be a new thing. I don't want it to be a new thing. Politics has never been a forte. I am not a very political person. If you've ever had, you've had one-on-one conversations with me, I am not very political at all. I decided to go to Washington to have kind of the conversations. Derek Bars had invited me based on some ideas that I had in terms of continuing education and some things that I would have loved to see Modus eventually come out with. And so I presented that to him and his team. And then I stayed for the Wisconsin Motor Carriers Association, their call on Washington. It was very informative. It was also exhausting. I mean, those people work really, really hard and get next to nothing accomplished. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to anybody necessarily. It just seems like they bounce from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And then, well, this is going to get pushed down the pipeline. This doesn't have the support. This doesn't have the sponsorship. This, you know, there's just constantly like things that you learn out there that is just like, this is frustrating. This is not going to happen anytime soon. You have the fix in your hand, and just because you're a Democrat or just because you're a Republican, you're not going to vote for something that's going to save trucking. That is crazy to me that they're putting their own selfish thoughts above what is needed for the industry. There isn't a single person saying in this industry, I'm sure there's a person, but generally speaking, we know anybody who's been in this industry knows what we need to fix this.
Right. Yeah, the top 4 issues, I think, were the good operators, regardless of what side of the industry they're on. You can probably pick 4 topics. If you picked 8 topics, 4 of them are going to be the exact same. So if you pick 6, 3 of them are going to be the exact same. So absolutely, we all know freight fraud's a problem. We know rising costs are a problem. We know insurance is a problem. What you want to add on top of that, those start becoming a little bit more blended. But those 3 topics are huge. So I'm doing my first call in September. So the first and second.
Okay.
So I think I'm headed out there with TCA.
It looks like a frat house. It looks like a frat house.
I saw your post on that. Like it's
obnoxious. It's obnoxious. Call a spade a spade. I don't care. You can come for me, Donald Trump. I love you dearly, but it's obnoxious. The signs on their doors, the clear hate towards the other parties, it was unbelievable, the level of unprofessionalism that there was. Like, you guys are the government. You guys are supposed to define. Just because you're wearing a suit doesn't make you professional. Now you need to act like it. Act like you can have a conversation. Act like you can. This is why I can't do politics, because it gets under my skin and I get really worked up. It's not that hard to sit around a table and listen to peers. Like, it's so right wing, left wing. I don't know. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating to see and to know that there's a solution that could really help America, not just truckers, but America. Like, when you've got billions of dollars worth of stolen goods, that's affecting everybody's home life. It is. Right. There's no way around it.
In one way or another. Yep.
And it's frustrating. Politics in general. I mean, if people really want to listen to it, I'll rant about it, but I don't think people want to listen to it.
Fair enough. But it's important that people like yourself talk to the people who are doing that Washington dance. So
I will say there was a lot of value in that. And I did get asked several times even after that to show the story. So, and this is what I would want to say to any of the other trucking company owners that are listening out there, is that when you do it with a story that shows who you are as a trucking company, because they are missing that piece. Even on the call in Washington, although I love it, we had insurance people on it, we had tech people on it, we had a fuel company on it, that kind of stuff. But I was only one of 2, maybe 3 actual trucking companies who had stories of fraud and had stories of the impact and stories of things that needed to. And they were very much geared into listening to that. And then several, pieces after to type up kind of some responses. But those stories do matter about what the direct impact is. I don't know if it's really going to make a huge difference. At the end of the day, I would love to say it would, but I will say in those moments, they definitely wanted to hear the stories. And I'm hoping that those influence their voting, whenever that happens. And that's all I can do at this point, is try and get the story out there of what we experienced, what we see every day, what costs we have going out the window to pay for services of fraud detection and verification and all those things, and extra costs that we have are definitely stories that they need to understand, that we as trucking companies are getting pounded with extra costs and extra things that we have to do to mitigate some of this fraud that the government isn't acting fast enough on.
Yeah, it's always been the race. Everything gets dropped back on the carrier, at least most of it. And it's always been a race to figure out how to handle that cost, yet not increase revenue somehow. So, but the visibility platforms and the tracking platforms and your fraud identification stuff, I wouldn't mind going into that, but I think we'll take a quick break before we jump into that topic here. So we'll be back in about a minute and a half, but if you have any questions for Pam, queue them up. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. So we'll see you in a minute. So
if your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the time-critical world of trucking and logistics, every minute counts. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT and technology services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep trucking and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them with our industry connections and proactive approach. We keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise.
And we are back. I don't think we were streaming on X right, so I fixed that on the break. So hopefully we caught a few more people there. We are back with Pam Polyak. So we were talking about all the fraud platforms that you're having to deal with today, and this is so last week I was in Indianapolis in Ohio. And there were common threads amongst every conversation, and this was kind of one of them. I met with a variety of different customers, and the fraud platforms are a thing. And I'm not just talking about the visibility side either. There's all kinds of other stuff that you have to deal with now too. But you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I absolutely love talking about this stuff that drives me nuts. No, I'm just playing. Yeah. Obviously, the validation platforms and the things that we need to do to protect fraud, right? Your standard, your carrier form one, your highways, your truck stops, your RMIS, all of the programs. There's tons of them out there now. And the biggest issue is that somebody has to pay them, and that somebody's us. Being the trucking companies. And so although some of them are very minimal and cost effective, some of them are priced heavier. Highway, for example, one of their lowest platform prices is $1,000 a month. Well, when you go months of not making any money or years of not making any money, another $1,000 hit a month, that's $12,000 a year. It's not a small amount of money. And I know to the big boys, it might sound small, but for a small trucking company, it's just another expense. But we're even talking cameras, we're talking the ELDs that were never really mandated, and now it's tracking, and now you need this app and you need that app, and it's very frustrating from a financial end to know what you're dishing out and potentially losing. And now with what the Supreme Court ruled on with the brokers and that kind of stuff, the brokered freight on the load boards, they're not coming as quickly. Now it's an entire process to get signed up and to prove who you are. That might take a week, 2 weeks, something like that, where it's not a quick button fix to then get a load. So now it's costing you money on that end where, hey, you've got a truck that's empty and your customer just notified you that the load's not going to be ready until tomorrow, but you want to get that truck moving today. Now finding a load on a load board isn't exactly as easy as it used to be, which is very frustrating as a whole. I've started working with a few different people to get the SBA's attention on this manner. We've got support from the president. We've got support from Derek Bars. We've got support from Duffy on trying to get some type of financial credit, some type of financial grant, something for the small trucking companies who are dishing out this money to help prevent fraud. I don't know that it's going to pick up steam. We're hoping. We're still knocking on doors. We're still trying to figure it out. Now we need, obviously, now we're back in government's hands again, waiting for somebody to kind of take this on for us, declare it, sponsor it, all those words, whatever they're saying from a government standpoint. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we are the ones that are, need to absorb the expense of these stolen goods, whether it's from an insurance standpoint, absorbing that and their cost, whether it's the actual cargo theft itself. I mean, insurance doesn't cover that when it goes missing. Neither of my claims were covered. And so it's frustrating. It's very frustrating from that end to have these expenses go out the window and have little to no support from a congressional standpoint to say, hey, they're dishing out this money. And it's costing on average, thousands of dollars a year for a small trucking company, 10 to 20 trucks that are like, hey, you need this software program, you need that software program, you're not doing enough. And then God forbid if your brokerage was small, which ours was really just overflow from our customers. And now we need extra insurance for that to just keep operating. Plus you need different vetting platforms. Plus you need all these other things to show to your customer that you're serious about their freight, which you are. But again, it's just added expense that nobody's raising their hand to cover right now. And that's very frustrating. It's making it difficult to like the industry right now when everything's falling on asset-based carriers. It is.
It's absolutely constant shifting. I mean, there's a couple of points based on what you just said. So a few years ago, I kind of said, I don't think this is going to, I mean, as an industry, we'll start to shore things up, but we're not going to solve the problem. This is going to end up having to be the federal government jumping in. I also say, on the litigation side, especially nuclear verdicts and whatnot, I don't think we're going to solve that either. That's going to have some form of governmental interception to it, because we're not going to figure it out on our own. We're not going to suddenly stop attorneys from doing what attorneys do. So there has to be some interception by the federal government. However, I think Ronald Reagan said this one. Some of the worst things you can hear is, "Hi, I'm from the federal government. I'm here to help." So that's pretty close to the same quote. So it's not going to happen fast. Although, even on the DOT side, I think we have more traction. You've met all the folks. I've met all the folks. We have a great team. But you can only do so much in a short period of time. You got to turn this Titanic, and it doesn't want to really turn. So, it's super frustrating. And to the customer point, they all want their visibility. They want this, they want that, and that causes you to have all of those platforms. So to be able to service. So at some point, if the market continues down the direction it's going, you're going to potentially be able to make decisions around customers based upon their technology requirements. So, I mean, that maybe already happens today, but it's probably because they are doing something that's you're not capable. You'll knowing your team, they'll figure out how to do it. But
there are customers I've gotten rid of because of their lack of. I had a customer who still wanted. It was the strangest thing. They had one set up with one major 3PL platform. I'm not going to name names. But then you could do the in and out times through that platform, which would connect to your own TMS system. But then in another platform, that's where your actual invoices needed to be sent. But your invoices and your load numbers they were different for different things. So it was transmitted differently. And then there was a third platform that you actually got paid out of. And it's like, why are you're paying all of these three platforms? At least I don't have to in this case. Well, I take that back. The one you had to pay $50 a month just to make sure that you got paid out of it.
Yeah.
And you had to mail a check in. Like, what are you doing? It just, that part is very strange to me. But there's 100%. There's a lot of different technology out there. And that's where, like I said at the beginning of the show, when I have a new dispatcher, that dispatcher needs to learn, my top 7 customers and all of their different platforms and all of their different tracking styles and all their different stuff. As much as the stuff integrates with an EDI stuff, there's still, okay, if something's going wrong, what do you need to do? You can't send an email because it has to go into their system. You can't send it this way. It's got to go this way, and learning those different, you want an appointment change? Don't email these people. You got to do it over here, and it's like everybody's just got their own system, and it doesn't necessarily always play well in terms of everybody else. It's just drastically different per person. So it's learning all those ins and outs.
It's a hefty playbook to have, when you get down to managing multiple customers, drivers, all the personalities, whatnot, especially at your size of a company. So I remember when I had 7 trucks. When I started out, I bought 7 trucks and I put them all to work. That was like the worst period of my life. I hated that. At about 20 to 30 trucks, it got a little better because I had a few more people, but 7 trucks was the worst. It was horrible running 7 trucks, especially starting out. I think for those guys that start out and buy a truck and then add a truck, and then, it takes them like 5-6 years to get to 7 trucks, probably a different scenario. But I went from 0 to 7, had to dispatch, sales, accounting, everything was all on me. And that, not to mention then have to turn around and take a load every once in a while. Having to do that today and manage all the other platforms, I don't know how people really do it. It's
very difficult. It's very difficult right now. And then I when we talked about attorneys and all the nuclear verdict type stuff, I was actually at a seminar a couple of weeks back, and I hadn't heard this yet, so that's why I want to put it out there into the universe, because I obviously cringed when I heard it, but it was this attorney who I love and respect, so I have nothing against him particularly, but he was basically stating that you guys now have all this telematics, right? You've got your ELDs in there, you have all this telematics. Now your old way of training is no longer going to suffice. If you have one driver who has hard braking issues, you need to have specialized training just for him on the hard braking issues. If you have one driver who their turns are too fast, you need to switch that train. You have to have customizable training at this point, not just from a road test standpoint, but from a telematics standpoint. In the middle of the night, hey, we saw this behavior happen once, we saw it happen twice, we're on it, we're watching it. Third or fourth time, if there's an accident, the jury is going to want to see that you stopped that behavior on day one because you had the information. And the reality is, on a company our size, that's very difficult for us. And it's not because we don't care. It's not because we don't, whatever. I don't have a night shift. I don't have a night shift safety person who's sitting there watching videos and every ping that comes in at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. I don't have people doing that. Yes, we get the alerts when there's an accident, when there's a crash, all these things. But the scare tactic of the attorney, and again, I'm not saying he's wrong by any means.
Right.
Because you have the data now, it's not just enough that you have the data. You actually have to have a data analytics degree. Yeah. You have to read it. You have to implement any new adjustments to it. You have to congratulate them when they're doing better, when they're slowing down, you know what I mean? It was just a very in-depth. It's great that you have the data, but it's not going to be great if you have the data and don't do anything about it, which seems like common sense, but the reality of it playing into the day-to-day of a trucking company that's only got 25 trucks and you're operating in such a way as efficient as possible. Yes, your safety's there, but my safety people, they're not on it 24/7, right? I'm not big enough to be able to afford a 24/7 safety person where if somebody's did a little bit of a lane adjustment that I can correct it immediately. I'm not saying I don't do anything. I'm just being candid and honest of saying, like, it's very difficult to have somebody within seconds. And this attorney was just like, you need to have it time stamped. You need to have it deliverable. You need to make note of it the second it happens, that it's fixed, that you reprimanded the driver, that they went through disciplinary actions, all of these things. And it's just like, like, can I just erase that I do this or what? And not saying I don't want safe guys, I do, but it is a lot of back office work when the technology was built to not allow, to eliminate a lot of the back office work. And now pings and dings and all that stuff could mean a lawsuit in front of a jury where all of a sudden we're found negligent because we didn't stop that driver from driving, or 3 weeks prior he had a lane deviation, so we should have known that behavior was going to happen from that driver. What?
So you're stating a perfect case though. So I agree with all your points 100%, and it's something that we I mean, this problem is not new, to be honest with you. It goes back to when we started deploying cameras, right? There was talk about this, and then there were solutions that came out, and now there's more solutions coming out. But, somebody asked questions of like, is AI coming for your job? Well, this is a perfect application if you get the right solution in place. AI is not going to take it to the finish line. It's not going to take it to the goal line. I should take that back. It's going to take it to the goal line, that 10-yard line, but it's not going to get it across, right? The human side has to get it across. But to show intention and to show that you are taking action, you can use a solution like that, possibly. Accuracy is always a question, and there's new solutions that are like, we're going to reach out to the driver and deal with the problem. I don't know if I like that idea. I don't really want a bot talking to drivers, but it is going to be able to.
They want a conversation with me. They want a conversation with the safety manager or to explain what actually happened. They don't want that bot, or even complain about all the pinging and dinging.
Sure. I mean, but to say, hey, you just had a heartbreaking event or whatever. Can you, explain, get some data, so when you do have that, whatever this, I mean, there's possibilities there. So this is, I guess conceptually, I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, but conceptually, it is one of those use cases where there is some sort of AI capability here that shortens that job. It may not be perfected yet, but there are some companies out there that are doing this. But once again, you end up having to pay for it. So that's the other side, is it's another solution that you have to pay for. But to the attorney's point, if you don't show the intention or the best effort to manage the solution that you've put in the trucks, which isn't cheap, you're going to have a problem. So this is one of the areas where, hey, we're going to free up people operationally. We can, and at your size, it's very difficult to experience that because it's a economy of scale. So, a company that has 300 people in an office running, 3,000 trucks or 2,500 trucks or whatever, they start implementing some solutions. They free up people. You don't have any people to free up. You still need them in those spots. So you might free up a little bit of their time, but you're not going to free up, head count. So,
correct.
Correct.
That's where it's frustrating, because it's falling on us to house the expense, to house the answers, to all of it, and it's just become pretty heavy to hold on to, while insurance companies are brushing the 1 to 10 truck fleets underneath the rug as if they don't exist, but still insuring them and making money off of them, but yet charging everybody else who is bigger than that, more than their fair share. So
I wish I had the pricing controls of an insurance company where they just say, okay, we're increasing you 20%. And you don't have any alternative but to just take it. So, I mean, typically speaking, you can go shop something and find a better deal, but in this instance, we're just climbing. So, what?
Real.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's the lifelong story of a trucking company. So it's just because we're moving faster, it's happening faster. So, what have you done any new tech changes, anything like that over the last 6 months or a year that has been impactful?
I haven't done anything gigantic. I will say that, I mean, I love my Amos TMS. They've done a lot of things, fully, the AI with the reading the PDF. They're coming out with different reporting options. They've got different things going on that are constantly improving, which is very, very helpful for me not to, if that makes sense. I feel like they cover the things and then send me a message that says, hey, we updated this. And it's like, oh, okay. Hey, look what this can do automatically. That's fun.
Sure.
We're working on different things within the platform to try and do some upgrading on stuff. I will say, and this, you're going to laugh at me for this, but we only started, it's only been about a year since we started with QuickBooks Online. I always had QuickBooks. Well, I shouldn't say always. I probably started QuickBooks, I don't know, 2010 10, maybe something like that. But QuickBooks Online has been a game changer when it comes to like knowing my numbers and understanding it, because it integrates everything with the credit card, with the bank right away. I can see if something is entered wrong. I can see if there's numbers changed around. I don't have to wait till the end of the month to reconcile. So I know it sounds like so stupid and small. Like now I think about it, I'm like, I should have done this way sooner. I should have done it way sooner, because I can be gone for a week and not touch the financials, and it will take me maybe a half hour to get everything done, make sure it all reconciles with the bank in real time. I'm not waiting for the month end. I'm not waiting for any of that. And it was definitely one of those things. I was like, I should have done this a lot sooner. And QuickBooks changes a lot randomly, which is frustrating.
That's we don't think about it, so
yeah. So I'm not saying it's the best program out there, but it is definitely a huge advantage, I would say, with the QuickBooks Online, that you can do real-time connections with your bank. You can see all the transactions, in real time if an employee used a credit card or what they used it for. You're not waiting till the end of the month to reconcile things out. It's done right away, which is awesome. So a little late to that boat. So talking to the tech guy, I'm like,
no. I mean, we're outgrowing QuickBooks, I think, right now. So I would say in the next year, but we've been on it for 10 years. It's something that I remember you've been tinkering with Claude. Now, have you pulled your QuickBooks?
Yes.
So we were texting back and forth, a while ago, and you're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I never really jumped. I've used Claude, but I never really jumped on the bandwagon. So now we're complete. I mean, I've jumped over the cliff.
You jumped ship.
Man, have you
You're in the shark water. Be careful.
Yeah. No, but I've used every other LLM in whatever case, but I mean, I just really hadn't embraced Claude. Now I almost exclusively use Claude.
Did I ruin you?
Well, you know what did it is integrating data to it. So I'm at we spend quite a bit with it now, but our HubSpot, our QuickBooks, our Monday.com, everything.
I will say I'm still tweaking a little bit, so it's not perfect, but I've got Claude to do our safety program. So it integrates with Samsara, which is the cameras and ELDs that we have. It integrates with my Amos TMS, and it will read data for lates, appointment times, that kind of stuff. It'll read driving behavior from the Samsara. It'll read logs from the Samsara. It will pull their wages from Amos. It is all part of the safety program, whether they get points. So everything is getting done automatically now, including reading tolls. It goes in. We have Best Pass instead of just regular iPass right now. But Best Pass, it reads what drivers did what tolls. If you're an employee, you get marked a certain number. If, there's some leniency in employees because we're so close to Chicago, but generally speaking, my employees are asked to try and avoid them as much as possible. And so they get graded on that as well. The Claude has been a huge help in different areas. I'm not 100% a fan yet. There are some glitchy things that I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can get this to work. It keeps kind of changing. But this is me learning without any classes, any courses. Right. It's still on my bucket to do this summer, is to take an actual full-on course so that I can see what I'm missing right now, because this is just me tinkering with it. But 100%, it's done a lot of that back office work and really helped create that. But seeing it do kind of the safety program and then calculate the points for them, I was like, look at this. Well, look at it. I was so excited. I was nerding out for real. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. I was thinking about, I didn't even think about it till we were coming around to the topic, but I think I've just had crazy ideas and I started throwing at it, and I've been able to actually achieve them in ways where I don't even necessarily have to tap my development team. I just figure it out. So, and then, from the reporting aspect of it too, just having, you're not really having to use any sort of heavy reporting tool. You can get some pretty amazing reports out of it if you fed it the right data and trained it the right way. So, when I talk, I said this at Matt's too, what is, I think I said it at another place here. When I was on with Charles on Brake Check, he asked me what's the best tech out there. The LLM. I mean, if you have 5 trucks, if you have 2 trucks, the most impactful thing that you can do. I mean, you can use it for optimization. You can use it for routing. You can use it to help with QuickBooks. You can use it to do anything. And it's like you have another person. So in a lot of ways. So
I do a whole analysis on utilization, given my KPI reports. I plugged some of this, I plugged some of that. It was doing routes and lane profitability. It was doing all of that stuff that it's working with my TMS system, but it's also working with QuickBooks. It's working
Everything
with
else,
whatever data I want to give it. It's reading my emails. It can do all of it. Now I'm only probably 2 or 3 projects in from a big grand scheme of things, but it really has been pretty awesome to see. And now my team is using one of them to kind of generate a checks and balances report between my TMS system and what the drivers have in versus it's also connecting and reading one of my customers' sites. So it's verifying and double checking the customer sites is in the same status that ours is in, and meaning and checking dates. Like if a customer pushed out a load, Claude will pick that up. Claude will pick up hey, there's a discrepancy. You have it in your system as this date. The customer now has it in their system as this date, and it hasn't changed. And so it'll call it out on this report that we run every day now, which is awesome. It very much is.
Yeah,
so I forgot all about that.
Yeah. In one of the sessions here at Samsara yesterday, it was actually a fuel optimization session. Somebody had said, they were putting up statements, and they had this really cool thing where it was like BS or, it's great or whatever. It was like good or bad. Everybody in the room had a card. When they asked a question, you'd raise the card up on whether or not you think it's BS or not. And one of the questions was, in 5 years, all your typical daily tasks for dispatch are going to be automated. And the room, so now what's interesting is that question would have been asked at an industry association, everyone would have flipped up BS. I'm positive of it. Mm-hmm. In this particular room, almost everybody agreed with that statement. And then somebody asked or made a statement around that and said, well, 5 years ago, did you think you'd even be using this technology in that way, shape, or form at all? And everybody said, no, we didn't even know it existed, Yep. So who knows where we're going to be at in 5 years, because things like this can just pop up and all of a sudden it's part of your daily life. I mean, it has as much of an impact as it's beginning to have as much of an impact as a cell phone. So in some cases, so in another few more years, cell phones really took a long time to become the staple. Really, it was the smartphone, I think, that jumped it way up. But I mean, if you think about it, cell phones have been around, 40 some odd years. So maybe longer.
Well, it's about that, because I am 40 and I remember getting my first Motorola box phone when I was probably 16, 17.
Yeah. But do you remember the phones that would be in a car? They would have the old, I remember those. That was definitely in the 80s. So I remember
we did the walkie-talkies and all that stuff in the trucking companies too. I mean, Dad had pagers, and then we tried walkie-talkies. Then we tried giving everybody little flip phones, and we did Nextels. We did Blackberries for a little bit.
I tried kind of everything, and eventually decided but I thought I was a late adopter with satellite tracking, and that was like 2005 that we did that. And I mean, we were running close to 1,000 trucks without satellites. So I mean, it was all cell phone or go plug some quarters.
And even those satellites that went on the trucks at the time were like this big. Now they're a tiny little box.
Now they're not even external. So you used to, so the invasive install used to be like 4+ hours on a truck, and now it's just a few minutes. So, but yeah, you used to have to run the wires up underneath the bunk and then run the other thing. Yeah, it was always a pain. So.
We had PeopleNet first. PeopleNet was our first one that we got. Probably it was 4 or 5 years before the mandate of e-logs and these. So we were late to it, but not at the cutoff. You know, we did it a few years in advance, and PeopleNet technology, same thing. It took forever to install. It took forever to, I mean, oof, that was rough. You know, so there's good advancements in technology, and then there's ones that just stress me out.
No, I'm right there with you. All of them stress me out because I got to deal with all of them. So
I was gonna say, and that coming from the tech guy means a lot.
it's wild.
Average person, I feel like I need a data analytics degree, a logistics degree, which I never went to school for this. I don't even know if a logistics degree makes sense. Sometimes I feel like in this industry
for trucking, it really, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean,
I need a management degree. I need an financial degree. I mean, and I have my master's in small business ownership, and you'd think I'd know everything, and stuff still sneaks up on me all the time, every day.
Best education is time and experience. So,
100%.
you know, you just have to run it over and over. So, well, we're up on time. How can everybody find you?
One of the biggest, best places is LinkedIn, Pamela Polyak on LinkedIn, Pam at PolyakTrucking.com. New website's going to be launching soon. It's PolyakSolutions.com. And in there you will find the consulting business and the trucking business and the logistics business. So Polyak Solutions, I'm hoping will be launching actually probably July 1st, I'm thinking. So July, Polyak Solutions, July 1st, but then Pam at Polyak Trucking, LinkedIn, Facebook, any of that stuff, all regular social media. And then I've got my own podcast, Hauling Success Podcast, on the YouTube channel.
Oh, absolutely. I've watched a few episodes. I can't say I've watched all the episodes, but
it's all right. I don't rewatch them. I don't rewatch them. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
I never watched the stuff. So, I mean, I've told you this before. I've gone back to my first episode a number of times, and it's just like, oh, no. And, you know, here
I don't rewatch them.
Yeah, no, I don't really want to watch. I even the current ones I don't typically watch. I'll watch clips and stuff, but typically don't rewatch myself ever. So, you know, it is what it is. So,
yeah.
Well, Pam,
learning material. That's all I care about. They're there to teach other people, and if you get something out of it, great. If not, keep scrolling, I guess.
Not however it works. So, but
yes.
Well, I appreciate it. The hour went by fast. We need to get together and chat more. So, but I hope all goes well. You have the rest of your vacation ahead of you, a few days, peace and quiet. So, or not.
Sir.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Pam. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Nate. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.
All right, here's what I'm taking away from that discussion. The trucks, the terminals, the technologies, those all change. And what lasts is what you choose to pass on. Pam didn't just inherit a business. She's spending her career making sure that the next operator doesn't have to bleed for every lesson she learned the hard way. That's really the legacy, not the name on the door, but the people who walked through the door after you. So to every owner, operator, and fleet owner listening, keep learning and own your mistakes and build something that's worth handing down. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.